Press the
red
button there. And
Yep, we're recording video.
and recording sound.
Okay.
Okay, so just a quick introduction. You have been selected to speak with us today because you have been identified as someone who has much to share about the subject of the 1979 strike in the Clinton Corn Processing Company. We would like to record our conversations today. We also need you to sign a form devised to meet Augustana College's research requirements and 2 other forms to give the recording as a gift to the Clinton Public Library. Essentially, the document states that 1, only the information that you are comfortable being used in the research will be used. 2, your participation is voluntary and you may stop at any time if you feel uncomfortable. And 3, you may choose to remain anonymous if you wish. Otherwise, your name will be used in future presentations, publications, documentaries, and online materials based on this research. Please sign the release forms after reading them if you agree to participate. After the recording has been transcribed and you have placed whatever restrictions you would like on what information will be released, then the materials will be placed in the archives of the Clinton Public Library permanently. Thank you for agreeing to participate. We plan this interview to last no longer than 1 hour. During this period, we have several questions that we would like to cover. We do not foresee that any question will make you uncomfortable, but please let us know if it does, and we can move to another topic. Please also let us know if at any point you need to end the interview earlier, and we will shorten the interview. On the other hand, if time begins to run short, it may be necessary to interrupt you in order to push ahead and complete this line of questioning, or to come back and do a follow-up interview later. So my name is Nicolette Sleva.
I'm Abby Thompson.
Today is December 8th, and if you could say your name and spell it.
My name is Robert John Krajnovich, Krajnovich.
And just for some background information, can you tell us where do you live currently and what your current occupation is?
My current occupation is retired, and I like it. My address is 1410 Becknan, Becknan Lane, Clinton, Iowa, 52732-5345. And the reason it's Becknan, the developer of that area had 2 daughters. One daughter's name was Nancy, and one daughter's name was Becky. So he took Becknan to name it. And you can't believe how many arguments I have had with people that tell me I don't know where I live. You know, it's Beckman, you know, but it's Becknan, Becknan.
Right, thank you. So to start off with, we are wanting to ask you about what the relationship between workers, the union, and the management was before any of the strikes took place.
I can't, well, it stemmed back to 1975. We had a wildcat strike, and they fired an awful lot of people. I don't know why they didn't fire me, but they didn't. I was a steward in my department, and I led my people out on this wildcat strike. And why I wasn't fired, I don't know. But they fired 3 people out of my department. They fired people that weren't even involved with the walkout. A nice guy, I can't remember his last name, Dale is his first name. And he is the nicest, gentlest person. He wouldn't say, you know, pooh if it happened. He just a tremendous guy. But they fired him to make it a point because they could do it, because we wildcatted. You know, they could fire anybody they wanted to, which they did. And I fought for that. We had a name, Mr. Smith from Sioux City, who was a labor attorney, and his son is now the labor attorney for the Iowa Federation of Labor. And he came here, and they had a trial to try to get everybody back, reinstated, everything. there were only two people out of everybody that they fired that were reinstated. One was a guy, and no, he wasn't even reinstated. He was in Florida suffering a heart attack and in a hospital, and they fired him. My brother was in the hospital, have a knee operation, a knee replacement job, and he was, because they found him, they couldn't find anybody else. The federal marshals found him and served him papers because they wanted people to go back to work. They wanted to, they served papers on the union, and they found him and served him with papers. And they never fired my brother for whatever reason, and he was a business agent. I was just a secretary and just a shop steward, so I didn't count. But my job was saved for whatever reason, and they just did their best to decimate the union, and it didn't work to a point. Up to 79, it worked pretty good, but I decided not to run for secretary again, and another gentleman asked me if I was sure, if I was positive. He said, "Do you mind if I run for secretary?" Because I was always a shoo-in, you know, for whatever reason. I'm not pretty or anything, but people trusted me and believed in me, so he said, "Do you mind if I run?" And I said, "No, I don't. That's your privilege. You're sure you're not going to?" "No," I said, I'm not going to." And he was the secretary for 1 month when they had the Wildcat, and he obviously was fired and went on, and they fired people that had been, they fired 3 people that accumulatively had 125 years of service just because they could. And that's the law, you know, that's labor law, that's, you know, and I'm not making excuses for it, I'm just saying that's what it is. And if I get a little emotional, I'm sorry, but and some of those guys were some of the best people they ever had. That part's over, so we lived, I got through my apprenticeship as an instrument person. I served in a 5-year apprenticeship as an industrial instrumentation technician, whatever, and I have a certificate from the Department of Labor in DC, and I've gone on and I've had a very successful life because of that, believe me. But I had to fix something, and I was up about 100 feet up in the air, and because I wasn't fired, but I was on permanent probation. If I had gas or something, they could fire me. That was you know, whatever. And whatever I did, especially if it was high or something, there was a superintendent or supervisor or something from the company that followed me around, and I was up on a ladder about 100 feet up in the air inside a silo, and this guy, and he's standing there, he is not doing a thing, he's just watching me do my job. And I said, "You're lucky." And he said, "Why is that?" I said, "Because I'm on permanent probation." He said, "So why does that make me lucky?" I said, "Because otherwise I could call you a son of a bitch. But I can't do it because I'm on permanent probation. I could get fired, so I can't call you that." And he looked at me. I said, "I can't call you a son of a bitch." I can't because I might lose my job. Of course, it went, over his head, but anyway, that was my feeling. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but I had a pretty rough time after that, and one of my friends said to me, "You better get out of here. You better find another place to go, or else you're going to be in deep caca." And I did. I got into the plumbers and pipe fitters local in Davenport because they had more instrumentation work than the electricians did at that time. Although I've worked for more electrical contractors than I have for mechanical contractors, if that makes sense to you. But and I've been all over this country. I spent a year out in California as superintendent for final instrument checkout and control at the biggest job in the country at that time. They bid it at $330 million, and the day I was laid off, it had exceeded $1 million, and I was part of that. I ran the whole thing to check out all of the instrumentation on that whole plant. So it was an oil refinery. So that's, I guess, where I'm coming from, if you have questions.
So going back to during the Wildcat strike and even a little bit before, what was your position in the union?
I was secretary.
Your secretary. And you said you decided to not run again. That was following the strike?
No, it was before. It was before the Wildcat, because there were some people on the board that felt that they, and I don't know how to phrase it or say, but they felt that there was something that we needed to do, a frontal attack, if that's a good word, to get the company's attention to what we're doing between contracts. And I did not like that flavor. I did not appreciate the people that were coming on that board, the trustees and stuff. And I said, that's it, I'm done. I don't want any part of it anymore. And that's when my friend called me, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? I said, yes, yes, yes. And because I didn't want to be a part of an organization that was going to do whatever they wanted to do or try to do to dismantle a very culpable working relationship that we had with the company. And the company was very good to us, and we were good to the company. It was a very workable arrangement that we had, I thought anyway, at that time. But they wanted to do something more. So I gave it up. And the guy that was my replacement as secretary was at one meeting, and then he got fired. So, and I stayed there. Why, I don't know, but I stayed there. They kept me, and but it was a bad situation. And a friend of mine named Jack Wilden, who was a millwright, myself as an instrument man, we started an ad hoc committee, and we had meetings up the Odeon, which is gone now, burned down, and we had 800 people there, and we said, we tried to pave a way where we could go back to the company. It's our fault. It's the union's fault, and if you'll let us, kind of negotiate a little way, we could do something. And all these people are willing to come back to work, and they fired Jack Wilden, kept me for whatever, and then they just picked and choose people that they brought back in, and it was a tough time. It was, they would pick one person out of a family to bring back, and not another person out of the same family. They just didn't, but that was their choice. That's a law, that was their choice. And it just, a lot of people, like I said, I left in September. My last day working there was September 6th, 1975. It was a Saturday. And I started on September 8th, which was a Monday, 1975, out of the Plumbers and Pipefitters Union, Local 387. Don't ask me why I know all these dates. I can tell you dates like you wouldn't believe, and my wife gets mad at me. She goes, why do you know all this? You can't remember yesterday, but you remember all these. But anyway, that's me. But then when 1979 came along, and my brother was the business agent, and he was saying that they were planning on having just a 2-week strike for the people that were fired. I said, don't do it. Don't do that. Please, do not do that. He said, it's not up to me. It's up to the board and the president and the vice. They all voted to do it. I said, talk them out of it. Well, they couldn't. The day that they went on strike, which was January 31st at midnight, August 1, Clinton Corn had truckloads of people from the South. They weren't there to work, but they were coming in, and they had ball bats and pick handles, and they brought them in by truckloads. 300, 400 people. I watched it. They had the highway patrol that was lined up on Highway 30 and down all the way to the plant, and the city police all the way to the plant. They fired people, or they arrested people just because they were on the property, and arrested them for terrorism. And I told my brother, I said, you shouldn't have done that. He said, well, I couldn't do it. I couldn't stop them. And everybody was fired. That was the end of the union, basically. I mean, they tried to hold on as far as they could, and they have the law says you have a year unless one side or another gives a waiver to either organize or disorganize a union, a local union. And my brother said it was in June, and enough people petitioned. He said, I don't care, have the election, even though it was less. It was like 9.5 months or 10 months after. He said, have the election, and of course they lost. So Clinton Corn became non-union, and then a couple of years later, they sold out to ADM, which is also non-union. But it was a tragic, I had a brother-in-law that crossed a picket line, and I chastised him. I chastised his wife, and my mother chastised me for chastising them, because that's my sister and her husband, and he has to work because she's pregnant. I said, no, he doesn't have to. He had a job. He was working as a janitor at a school, and she was pregnant before we went on strike. So law also says, if you're pregnant before something happens, you're covered. The insurance covers you. I said, he didn't have to, but that went, up in flames because, nobody wanted to listen to me. Everybody well, you guys have your own ideas too, about what happens. So nobody wanted to listen to me, so he went across the line. So then I was in, just say, chaos with my family, because I didn't believe that was the right thing to do, anyway, if you have any more questions or something.
Just quick, could you tell us your brother's name and your brother-in-law's name?
My brother's name is Michael, and he lives in Florida. And I wish I would have thought of it. I have a book that is labor history in the state of Iowa. And